Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a book that it'll fundamentally change how you see the world. I'm talking about Nassim Nicholas Taleb's The Black Swan. It's all about those huge, out-of-the-blue events that shape everything and why, we're almost always blind to them right up until the moment they hit. So, to really get our heads around this huge idea, we're going to start with a story. A surprisingly simple one that Taleb uses to kick things off. And yeah, it's a story about a turkey. All right, so I want you to picture a turkey. From the very first day it hatches, this friendly human shows up and feeds it every single morning. This goes on day after day, week after week, for 1,000 days straight. 1,000. Now, with every single feeding, this turkey's confidence just skyrockets. It's collecting data, right? And all that data points to one simple, rock-solid belief. This human is my absolute best friend, and this fantastic trend of getting fed is definitely 100% going to last forever. But then, day 1001 arrives. You know what day that is? The day before Thanksgiving. And in one single, shocking moment, our turkey learns a brutal final lesson, one that completely shatters everything it thought it knew. And that shocking reversal, that's what Taleb calls a black swan. It's an event that's got three key ingredients. First, it's a total outlier, something nobody saw coming. Second, it has a massive game-changing impact. And third, and this is the really crucial part, after it happens, we all rush to cook up explanations for it, making it seem like it was predictable all along, which, of course, it wasn't.
So, look, this story obviously isn't really about a turkey. It's about us. It's about you and me. Why are we so often caught completely flat-footed, totally blind to the risks that are just staring us in the face? Well, Taleb says it's because we have a few pretty powerful mental blind spots hardwired into us.
Okay, the first major flaw, we are addicted to stories. Taleb gives this a name, the narrative fallacy. See, our brains just aren't designed to remember a long list of boring, disconnected facts. Nope. They're wired to take those facts and spin them into a nice, neat story. So check out the difference here, something the novelist E.M. Forster pointed out. If I say, the king died, the queen died. Okay, that's just two facts. Kind of boring. But what if I say, the king died, and then the queen died of grief? Ah, now that's a story. It's so much easier to remember because we've added a why, a cause, even if we totally just made it up. That story just feels more real, more complete than the plain facts. And let's be honest, we do this constantly. The stock market goes up and we immediately click on an article that tells us exactly why. A big political event happens, and we hunt for that one simple reason that explains the whole thing. This craving for a story makes the world feel so much more neat and tidy, so much more understandable. But here's the danger. It totally masks just how random and chaotic things really are. All right, our second mental trap is just as powerful. Taleb calls it silent evidence. The basic idea is that we form our entire picture of how the world works by only looking at the winners. Because, well, the winners are the only ones we ever see or hear about. You know how it is. We see that one restaurant that's always packed, right? Or the one author who hits the bestseller list. Or that one startup that becomes $1 billion company. And what do? We study them obsessively, trying to reverse engineer their secret sauce, convinced we finally cracked the code to success. But here's what we miss. For every single one of those success stories, there is a huge, silent graveyard of failures. We're talking about the hundreds of other restaurants that went belly up, the thousands of manuscripts that got rejected, the countless businesses that just never made it. Their stories are just as important, maybe even more important, but because they're invisible, we learn nothing from them. We're only looking at the survivors, which gives us a totally warped, completely distorted view of how things actually work. Okay, so if our own minds are basically tricking us, feeding us these neat little stories and hiding all the evidence of failure, what are we supposed to do? How do we fight back against our own wiring? How can we even begin to see the world more clearly? Well, Taleb brings up a brilliant example to help shift our perspective. He talks about the personal library of the amazing scholar Umberto Eco. Now, Eco had something like 30,000 books in his collection. And when most people walked in and saw this massive library, they'd ask the same obvious question. But a very small handful of visitors got it. They understood the real point. Eco's library wasn't a trophy cabinet to show off what he knew. It was a research tool for exploring what he didn't know. The most valuable books on his shelves were the ones he hadn't read yet.
Taleb has a great name for this, an anti-library. It's a physical, constant reminder of your own ignorance.
And this really gets to the heart of the matter. Most of us think of knowledge as, well, as a thing we collect, like stamps or something. But a real defense against these Black Swan events, that comes from focusing on the huge, massive ocean of stuff you don't know. An anti-library is so powerful because it forces you to look at that ocean every single day. Okay, so let's get practical. If we accept that we're mostly ignorant and that the world is way more random than it feels, what do we actually do about it? How are we supposed to navigate a world where these huge, shocking events are pretty much inevitable? Well, Taleb's main strategy is not about trying to predict the next Black Swan. He's pretty clear that's a fool's errand. Instead, it's all about building a life and building systems that are robust, systems that don't completely shatter when a shock hits. So what does that look like? It means you have to actively de-narrate, stop buying into those simple, clean explanations you see on the news. It means you got to embrace skepticism and question those so-called expert forecasts. It means you learn to love redundancy. That extra cash in your savings account isn't inefficient, it's your armor against the unknown. And finally, it's about putting yourself out there, maximizing your chances for good luck, for those positive surprises to find you. So, at the end of the day, look, we can't stop Black Swans from happening. That's just not on the table. But what we can do is change how we prepare for them. And it all boils down to a few key things. Being super skeptical of those neat and tidy stories, making an effort to learn from that silent graveyard of failures, and never, ever forgetting just how much we don't know. And that brings us to maybe the most important question of all. See, the most dangerous stories out there aren't the ones on TV. They're the ones we tell ourselves. The stories about our own lives, our careers, our 5-year plans, our futures. They feel so safe, so predictable, just like that turkey felt for 1,000 days. So the challenge Taleb really leaves us with is this. What crucial story are you telling yourself today? And are you brave enough to question it?